Welcome to Booked All Night Season 2. Each week, Jess, Katie, and Maggie launch into new worlds, discover amazing characters, and bring you the best bookish discussions under the stars. We're a cozy little corner of the internet, so be sure to leave a comment and join the polls after each episode. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss a chapter. All right, my little Libranauts, grab a seat, grab a book, and join us as we explore some new pages. Before we officially get started, I want to give a shout out to Kayla, who was the very first Libranaut on our Discord server to ask a question on our interview forums. As a reminder, whenever we book an interview, we open up a forum so that all of our fans can drop a question for our guests. It's free, it's available to every role on our server, and you can ask whatever you like. So ask about writing habits, ask about favorite snacks, ask if they think their characters can survive a zombie apocalypse. I don't care, have fun with it. Some of the authors our listeners have already missed out on include Alicia Jasinska, Lindsay Miller, Farrah Heron, Shelley Page, and Arlo Z. Graves. And now that I have said all of that wonderful mouthful of announcement, I'd like to welcome Lyndall Clipstone to the podcast. Yay!
Yay! Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. We love doing author interviews. They're lots of fun for us. Just to kick us off, can you give us a quick pitch for Tenderly I Am Devoured?
Okay, so Tenderly I Am Devoured is the story of a girl who, after her betrothal to the swan god, worshipped by her isolated coastal town, goes horribly wrong. She has to seek help from her arrogant rival and his alluring older sister.
Nice.
All right. So jumping in Tenderly I Am Devoured, your main character, Lark, has a lot of different types of relationships, from romantic to desperate to unrequited and even familial. How did you keep track of such themes like family, romance, and friendship while also staying within the genre bounds of horror?
I think the two blend together quite well because for me, one of the appeals of writing horror is how intimate and character focused it can be. So I really think digging into the interpersonal relationships that the characters have is a way to even heighten the tension, perhaps, by, those sort of tensions within the relationships can then translate into the tensions in the narrative that are creating the horror.
Yes. So your world includes chthonic deities like Therian. What inspired these underworld deities? How did one take the shape of a swan?
Is it just like that I thought swans were neat?
They are neat.
They are neat. I don't know. I think there was a lot of different inspirations. The mythos in Tenderly I Am Devoured is very, very loosely based on classical mythology. So like the idea of chthonic demons or chthonic gods. I liked the idea of having a deity system where they weren't like a huge, all-powerful singular god, but more sort of small local gods, just because it made the intimacy of the narrative fit better. And I'd written books before where I had larger, more omnipotent gods, like in Lake's Edge, there's the Lord Under, who's like the Lord of the Dead. So it felt interesting to me to try and experiment with a smaller kind of hedge god, local god type situation, which also gave it more of a folk horror kind of feel, which is what I'm really sort of loving at the moment. So yeah, I had been playing a lot of Hades, which has like is very sort of loosely based on the Greek Parthenon, I suppose. And I really liked how there's all these different immortal beings that are kind of in charge of different little sections of the underworld. And so I think that was another kind of inspiration for creating Therion.
I was telling one of my other book friends about it. I'm like, oh yeah, and there's a swan god, and it's like all horror, and they're like, but swans are so pretty. And I'm like, if you have ever gone to the park and been near a swan,
they are a half step below the meanness of Canadian geese.
And they don't like you.
Yeah, white swans are like hardcore. So in Australia we have black swans, which are a lot smaller and very sweet and friendly. But I've had experiences with geese, and they definitely seem very similar to the white swans. They're terrifying.
They are. They're so mean, and it's like there's a lake by my local library, and a lot of ducks and geese and stuff just kind of congregate there. And the ducks will come up to you and be like, "Hey, food." And the geese will come up to you and threaten your life, even if you don't have food. And they're like, "Go, get out of here with your not having crumbs in your pockets."
Yeah, okay, I will listen. I will leave.
Yeah.
So we've talked about some of the fantasy elements, but what can you tell us about Tenderly I Am Devoured that makes it a horror novel?
So I think it's the very kind of quiet, creeping tension that lends itself to all of the threats that are in there. I guess it's kind of alongside gothic horror because there's a lot of similar, like, sort of domestic horror. It's body horror type things, but I think the threat being this kind of threat to the self, this Lark's kind of dissolving between two worlds, her feeling of being haunted by Therion once their betrothal goes wrong. There's all of these sort of moments where she's sort of hallucinating, not hallucinating, these boundaries of reality becoming more fragile, I suppose. So I think all of those things are what creates the horror elements in my sort of viewing of it.
This is one more question before we get to our first game. This one is from Miranda B. over at the Bound Sisters podcast. Miranda asks, as someone who doesn't read a whole lot of horror, would you say that this book is a good starting point? And what would you recommend for getting into horror books?
I suppose it depends on what type of horror you like to read, because there's so many different varieties. I mean, you can't go wrong with Stephen King, especially classic Stephen King. It's my favorite. I really love, like It, all of those sort of the dairy set stories. I feel like Tenderly I'm Devoured is kind of a nice gateway horror. One of my big inspirations was the movie Midsummer, because I liked how it was set in this flowery, sunlit kind of setting versus it being dark and creepy. So I think it's a fresh kind of fun, if horror can be fun.
Horror can be fun.
I don't find it too spooky, but it's always hard to tell what kind of tolerance people have. I really love folk horror. Another one that I really enjoyed was Starvaker, which is this folk horror about a researcher who is digging up these strange ruins near his country house and finds the skeleton of a rabbit, and weird things happen. So I really love, folk horror, classic Stephen King type horror. And for gothic horror, I really love Helen Oyemi's White is the Witching, which is kind of like this family secrets, haunted house kind of vibes. That's another good one.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
For you, I'm not a horror fan, so
I like horror. I like horror as a writer because there's so much metaphor to be had in monsters, and to kind of take that on and pull parallels from. And I like horror as a bitter person because sometimes it's nice to see somebody's day go a little bit worse than mine. And, like, you sit there and you're having a bad day and you're like, well, at least there's not, like, a cult after me, or an underworld god trying to pull me down and marry me, or a cult out in the mountains with beautiful floral aesthetic burning all of my friends alive in a cabin. Like, it could be worse.
It could always be worse.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's fine.
I mean, I think that's part of the appeal of horror, which, especially in times like these where you'd think, why are people so drawn to horror when society is in a state of stress and upheaval? But I think there's something appealing about getting to watch a terrifying and threatening situation play out in a confined space where it's you're experiencing the emotions because you're the reader, but it's separate from you and it has a very contained narrative and a sort of proper defined ending. And I think there's something cathartic about being able to experience fear or terror or any kind of strong emotion through that controlled situation.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
Like I would rather experience the horrors of the world through literature and film than firsthand experience.
Definitely.
So. And on that happy note,
let's play a game.
Let's play a game. I feel like there's a horror movie about that. This one is called Space 'em or Embrace 'em. You are on a small ship transporting tropes and cliches throughout the galaxy, but you found yourself in a gravitational pull of a black hole. In order to save yourself, you must dump some of your cargo. The problem is, in addition to being sucked into the black hole, you have to manually select which tropes and cliches to launch off your ship, and you can only see 2 at a time on the computer screen. Maximally, in order to get out, you can only keep 4 of the 10 options that I'm going to give you. You can, of course, space all of them. That's what Shelley did, right? Shelley was like, they're all out the airlock, every last one of them. Do you have any questions on that before we get started?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. The first 2 are abandoned areas and cults.
Abandoned areas will be spaced, I think.
Spaced. Out the airlock. The next 2 are cursed artifacts and demons.
Ooh, I'll keep demons.
Keep demons. Did you keep cults or
I kept
have not made it?
I'll say the ones that I'm keeping just for...
Okay, we'll do that then.
I should have figured that out before we started. I'm just like, wait a minute.
To be fair, we've only played it once before with Shelley, and she was like, out the airlock, out the airlock. Every last one of them, they can go. They're all gone, and so I didn't have to think about whether I would keep track of that or not the next time we play. The next 2 are isolation and not confirming the kill.
I'll keep isolation.
Keep isolation. The next 2 are death to the fornicators and seeing things in mirrors.
Oh, I think I'll have to keep seeing things in mirrors.
I was like, I'm pretty certain Lark sees things in mirrors. That would be
I
know. And the last 2 are messages in dreams and nightmares and corrupt churches.
I'll keep messages in dreams and nightmares.
Okay, so you currently have 5. The 5 that you are currently keeping are cults, demons, isolation, seeing things in mirrors, and the corrupt church. So you have to pick one to launch.
I'll launch demons. They can enjoy their little trip into space.
Out they go. And now we get to go back to our lovely questions.
Alrighty, so let us jump into some writing habits. This question comes from Kayla, a Libranaut on the Booked All Night Discord server. Kayla wants to know, what does your daily writing routine look like?
It really depends on what stage in the writing process I'm actually at. So if I'm on deadline and if I'm doing revisions or if I'm doing copy edits. So at the moment, I am pretty much finished all of the revisions for Tenderly I Am Devoured. There's a very long lead time in publishing, especially traditional publishing. So the book's kind of done almost a year before it comes out, which feels very strange. But so that's sort of done. Most of my work on that now is promotional type things. So I was telling someone the other night, well, sometimes my work day is making TikToks, which sounds really silly, but it's a serious work day, I promise. And I'm drafting something new. So I generally try to sit down and write every single day when I'm trying to get something done. If I'm on deadline, I kind of have to meet the deadline. I've got 2 kids, so I'll get up, I'll drop them off at school, I'll come home, I'll set myself up on my computer. Sometimes I use a Pomodoro timer, which I found is really helpful for keeping myself focused because I have a lot of trouble focusing. Something I was very skeptical when I first read about Pomodoro timers, but it really works like magic. I have no idea like how having this little timer clicking away helps me focus.
They
but
really are magic.
It
Like
does.
I use them all the
Yeah,
time for everything, and it really is like you click it on, you're like, okay, this is my work time, and I'm like, where was this when I was a child with undiagnosed ADHD? Because this would have transformed my life knowing this a lot sooner than I did.
It's so good. And I feel like for people with ADHD, they probably work really well in the other way and reminding you to take breaks because there's nothing worse than that moment of hyper focus where you sort of swim up to the surface again and it's like, oh, 5 hours have passed and I've just been hunched over my computer for, you know, that usually happens when I'm doing graphic design or something. So yeah, I'll set my Pomodoro timer. I'll try and write until either like I sort of just feel like I've kind of hit a wall and I need to get up and shake it out, go for a walk or something. And then I will log my word count in this tracker sheet that I keep, which I like looking back on because I think sometimes when you're writing, it really does feel like you're not actually getting anywhere. I'm just sort of sitting here tapping away indiscriminate. So I like looking back over, you know, oh, actually I did write all of these words in a week, a month. And it also reassures me seeing the kind of statistics. I'm not somebody who has like 10,000 word days. I'll often write maybe 2,000 words a day is a good amount for me. And knowing that that's a regular process has been reassuring too.
I want to add on that because there was a really good piece of advice I got when we interviewed V.E. Schwab on an old project that we used to do. And she had said that the best way to think about writing is that all of the work toward your WIP is writing. It's all work and should all be counted. So like, it's not just that the word count went up or down today. You also did research. Maybe you made a map. Maybe you put together TikToks because you are an author. Your stuff's coming out. Like that's still work to be counted.
Yeah, definitely. And there's definite sort of peaks and troughs with like sometimes a work day will be me on my computer all day. Sometimes I'll sit down and write 700 words and then I'll feel, okay, I really am just absolutely burnt out, cannot have the energy to drafting, especially I find very exhausting because you're creating something from nothing. I love revision. Revision is my favorite. So I'm really sort of in the trenches of it at the moment where I'm trying to draft something new. So I'll take a break, I'll read, I'll watch a movie, I'll go for a walk, I'll play a video game. I've also got books that I need to read for blurbs. So that was what I'm doing. Over the weekend, I've been binge reading Lady Dragon by Adrian Strickland for blurbing, which is this sapphic princess and dragonkin kind of romance. And it's been absolutely delightful to read. So yeah, there's that part of it as well. But I like that. V.E. Schwab always has such excellent advice, and I suppose she would. She's had such a wonderful and inspiring
career. She really has. Like that little piece of advice, I think we got when I was either entering my MFA program or getting out of my entering my MFA program because we had stopped doing round robin by then, and it just I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, that is a lot of work that I do to do all the research and make notes and do all these other things. Yeah. That's right. And, then I wanted to, yell at my mentor that semester and be like, hey, just because I didn't give you 40 pages doesn't mean I didn't do my work.
So a mainstay on our podcast is to ask each author what the weirdest or coolest thing that you researched for Tenderly I Am Devoured was.
Let me think. I don't know about weirdest. Researching about, I know, the language that I made up, I think was the coolest and funnest thing because originally there's the male love interest, Alistair, is a little bit of a Henry Winter-esque nerd, and his favorite book is this book called oh my gosh, I've completely forgotten the name of it. Book in my own thing. He's very obsessed with this book, which is a poem written in a dead language, and it's based on the Aeneid by Virgil. And originally I had sort of the phrases in quotations from it written in Latin. And my agent was sort of saying, I think people might get a bit confused if you have Latin in the book because it's not set in the real world. You don't want to bring people out of it. So I thought, okay, but I really loved having these sort of Latin sounding phrases. I really loved the concept of having a dead language in the world because it just sort of added this really cool extra layer to the kind of dark academia undertones of the story. So I ended up inventing a language called Tharnish, which is sort of a mixture of Latin and Cornish because the setting of Tenderly I'm Devoured was very, very, very loosely based on the part of Cornwall that my family is from. So yeah, so like the pet name that Alistair calls Lark, which is my little swan, I made that up in Tharnish. There's a few sort of magic kind of related phrases, like the incantation used to disrupt their betrothal. So yeah, researching that and coming up with a plausible sounding fake dead language was a really fun and interesting challenge.
Yes,
How
yeah,
very Tolkien of you.
very Tolkienish, and conlang is amazing. Like, there are so many subreddits dedicated to constructed language. That's what conlang is for anybody watching that's like, what are these mysterious words you are using, Jessica? It's constructed language. It's the languages that we make up. And there are some people that do these insanely detailed ones. There's one called Green Root, and it's written in a circle. And so, like, the capital letter is, I think, I'm trying to learn it, so don't quote me on this. But I think it's like the first letter of the word or the name is like the surrounding shape, and then everything else gets written inside of it. And I'm like, yeah, it's really cool, and it makes this beautiful like sigil when it's done. Like, that's so beautiful, and that's definitely something that I would think of when I'm making a magical symbol or language or something. And these people that do that, and the map making community as well, in addition to those people, because they're kind of linked and crazy together, where they're like, no, you can't have that kind of phonetic.
I have so much respect for people who can draw maps. I had to do like a sketch because my UK edition is going to have a map in it, and they said, "Oh, can you draw?" And so I made one, and they had all these questions for like, "Where does this fit? What is this? Why is the scale up?" And so I ended up making this horrible looking thing in Canva.
So what you're saying is I have to get my hands on a UK edition because I don't have a map in my US edition. Both of my books with my UK publisher had maps in them. Unholy Terrors, which came out last year, has a map too, that was my first book having a map, so that's very cool. Exciting. All books should have maps.
Yeah.
Like, I for a while I had a bunch of like literary maps in my office. Well, not in this office, but in the last office that I had. And they're so great in detail. Like, a lot of the artists that do this, they do them by hand. And, like, so all those itty-bitty, nitty little details, the trees and the grass.
Yeah. My favorite map artist is Kathleen Jennings, who drew the maps for the Chronicles of Elfhame book. So, like, the Holly Black. Like, she does these gorgeous, very fairy tale kind of, with these little whimsical elements. She's a fellow Australian, too, so that's fun. I went to a map making workshop that she taught and got like a little booklet, and
I want to go to a map making cool stuff like that's not near me. I want to go to a map making workshop.
Back to the questions.
No, back to my complaining about not going to a map making workshop.
Let's see. I saw that you've been both a mentee and a mentor through the author-mentor match. What do you think makes a good mentee-mentor relationship as it comes to the creative arts?
I think it is a adaptability to work with the particular needs of your mentee. So I've mentored 2 times now, and I really, really loved the experience. And both of my mentees have not ever published, but it wasn't through like lack of trying. It was mostly just because their life circumstances. One of them started a family, the other one started a new career. And I really support them in that, because I think there's this pressure that if you're a writer, you're only a success if you publish and sell a 1 million book deal and whatever. And I think actually knowing I want to take the time to work on my craft, or, this querying isn't for what I want to spend my time on right now, I really respect that. So I think for me, when I was mentoring, it definitely became more of an emotional sort of support relationship as much as we were also working on writing craft. So I really love that aspect of it. And for me, I think being mentored, I just appreciated having somebody who was in the industry, because I was a complete beginner, completely new to everything about publishing when I became mentored. I didn't know anything about getting an agent, how to go about being published. I tried to reach out for help to like my local writers center, and they'd been very discouraging and basically told me, oh, it's impossible to get an agent, which is not really the advice you want to hear. Yeah. So I was completely at a loss, especially in Australia, because it was only like querying overseas agents was only just becoming like a new thing. So I really appreciated having someone who had been in the thick of publishing, who could give me these answers which felt so esoteric and unknown to me. So yeah, I think that sort of the emotional connection and the ongoing support, I became quite good friends with everyone, like my mentor and also the people that I went on to mentor. It was really lovely. And a lot of the people who were mentored by friends of mine have now come up and become published, and they're my like colleagues. So it's been a really lovely experience.
It's lovely. This question comes from another Libranaut on our Discord server, Autumnfire. Autumnfire wants to know what sparked your love of horror.
I've always been really drawn to sort of spooky, dark horror things. I was like the weird Wednesday Addams kind of kid. I really got into reading horror a lot in high school, especially. I was a bit of a teenage misfit goth kind of girl and really loved reading Anne Rice and Poppy Z. Brite and all of that sort of thing. And I think it kind of goes back a bit to what I was saying before about seeing weirdness, scariness played out in a controlled environment. I was a queer girl growing up in a small country town in the 90s in Australia, and definitely didn't feel like I fit in. And it was through reading these books like The Vampire Chronicles and Poppy Z. Brite's Lost Souls, which is this very queer, very subversive vampire book, that I sort of felt a connection. I started to see more of myself reflected in these weird, spooky stories. So I don't really know if I can pinpoint anything. It's just something I've always been drawn to. I think as a writer, I really love the experience of delving into character-driven narratives, interpersonal stories, relationships, very intimate, sort of close at heart, small stakes things. And horror is such a good environment to play with that as a reader and a writer. It's just, there's so much visceral, psychological, up close kind of experiences that it's always been something that really appealed to me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then last question before we move on to our next portion. Your book contains stunningly beautiful prose. How do you juggle poetry like word choice with pacing?
I think that my editors are definitely to thank for that. I have a fantastic editorial team. I'm really lucky that I have publishers in 3 major territories. So I have a publisher in the US, publisher in Australia, and a publisher in the UK. And all 3 of my editors gave me notes on Tenderly I Am Devoured, and a lot of their advice was very gently sort of saying, oh, you know, your prose is so beautiful, but perhaps what if we cut this bit and cut that bit, and just to keep the flow going. And I really do feel like, for me, and probably all writers, but especially for me, I feel like I really shine in revision, and I really, really enjoy having somebody step in with a very keen editorial eye who's got that objective distance that I no longer have, especially by the time it gets to second or third round of revision. I can say the pacing would work better if this is taken out. So I think having an editor that I really trusted and knew got the heart of the story helped with their sort of ways to help me see the book in a way that I probably couldn't have seen on my own because I was too close to. So I'm finding now when I'm drafting a new book, there's definitely times where I can feel myself leaning perhaps too heavily into the prose. I mean, how many descriptions of the forest do we really need? Arguably, maybe all of them. Yeah, the Tolkien. Like, here we are, like, I'll write 10 chapters about somebody walking through the woods. But I know that I'm just sort of letting it go with the knowledge that it's something that can be fixed later, and that it's probably when I have revisions, either with my agent or an editor or whatever, that they'll help me pass out the heart of the story. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've discovered through my writing career is how collaborative getting a book from manuscript to finish is, and how much it benefits from having input of these key trusted people.
One of the big messages of my undergrad writing program was that writing is social. And part of the message there was that, like, there are many people that get your book out. It's not just you sitting alone in, like, your tower with a single candle while you handwrite your manuscript anymore. It's,
I mean, it kind of is while you're drafting, and then you sort of hand over, and I'm like, here you go, please enjoy my 1,000 words of mess, and then somehow it becomes a finished book, and I feel very proud of it.
It took me a while to understand that, because, like, especially when you're a student, you're like, no, I write this alone. By the light of my very bright computer screen in the dark while everybody else is asleep, so nobody bothers me. Like, there's nothing social about this. And the metaphor aside, where, like, oh, it's like being psychic and I've written this thing and made a picture in your mind. The act of editing is social, where we talk about our work. And I think our work gets better when we do actively have people to talk about it with, even if you're not editing. Like, one of my favorite things to do with Maggie is to bounce ideas. Like,
yeah. Or even do like a positivity pass where you just let somebody read the first chapter. And I often do that, where I'll send it to a friend and say, just tell me what you like about it. I don't need editorial notes. I just need to know that there's something good there. Like,
even that, you know, some of my fondest writing memories are taking over the classrooms at our university, where both Maggie and I did our undergraduate work, had whiteboards on every wall. And so we would go in there and plot out an entire book, because you've got 4 walls to do it on. That
sounds like a dream space for plotting all of those.
And we've been chasing that feeling ever since. All I've got is a singular whiteboard behind me.
I really have. I got to tell you, the singular whiteboard does not do it. I need to go break into Rowan and just steal one of the classrooms and do all 4 walls again. And the other one was I threw Maggie down because I was wondering if a character would fall off a building if thrown a certain way. And every once in a while that comes up in our Facebook memories, just like, hey, remember when you threw Maggie off a roof? Yes, I do. In fact, I do. It is. It's very practical. That brings us up to the second game of the podcast. Every writer's absolute worst nightmare, a spelling bee.
Oh, no.
So it is a standard spelling bee here, right? I will give you a word. You can ask for its definition and for it to be used in a sentence, and then you have to spell it.
All right. This is going to be terrible, because not only am I awful at spelling, but also we spell everything so differently in Australia. So I'm looking forward to this challenge.
Oh.
To be fair, I spell a lot of things the UK way. I was an English major, and most of my classes were in British Lit, so I also spell everything differently than everybody here in America, so it'll be fine.
Well, it'll be fine. Thank you for copy editors, but yes, I'm looking forward to seeing how badly I go.
Okay, our first word is tenebrous.
Oh, TENEBROUS.
Yep.
Yay!
The next
should have
word.
A soundboard with applause.
Can I get a soundboard? Just ducks all over the podcast for no reason. Just quack 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 quack. Yay! Producer Rob says I can get one. Quack 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 quack. The second word is lurid.
LURID.
Yes.
Woohoo!
The next one is obfuscate.
OBFUSCATE. Ciate.
Oh,
so close.
Cate.
That just random I now lives in there.
The next word is abyssal.
ABYSSAL.
Yes.
Yes.
Macabre.
MACBRE.
MACABRE.
Ah,
So
macabre.
sneaky double
Sneaky
vowels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those sneaky little, what do they think they are? French, where you just throw in letters that never get pronounced? On you. I had French for years, and then I went to German, and my teacher kept making fun of me because I would drop letters, and she's like, no, it's German. We pronounce all of the letters here. I'm like, oh, no. Like a 26-letter word. The next word is ethereal.
ETHEREAL.
Yes.
Yes. This particular word was one of those issue words for me where I've read them before I ever heard it said before, so I've always pronounced it ethereal.
Another reason Maggie doesn't run the spelling bee. I definitely had those words, and then there's also when you're tired and you just kind of mix up all the syllables. Like, there have been times where I was like, hyperbole? What's hyperbole? And that'd be hyperbole for everybody at home. Yeah.
Epitome. I've done epitome
Yeah,
before.
epitome.
I had so my son just started at a Catholic school, and he was talking to me about their first mass, and I was like, oh yeah, the Eurochrist. And it felt right in my head, but that's not how you pronounce it, apparently.
Eurochrist, the lesser known variant of Eurovision.
Brains. I love our brains, but our brains are so bad at everything.
We studied words, not reading, so not speaking.
I guess
Pronunciations.
We can spell things sometimes, maybe.
Sometimes.
Possibly.
Sometimes I just pray for spell check to catch me.
The next word is penumbra.
PENUMBRA.
Yes. This word is new to me, and it is noctivagant.
Oh, noctivagant.
Noctivagant.
Noctivagant. What does that mean?
Wandering at night.
It's a cool word.
Yeah.
NOCTIGAVANT.
So close. It is NOCTIVAGANT.
That's definitely one of those ones you need to write down to be able to figure out how to spell, I think. What a cool word. I'm going to remember that one for future.
Right? I just go on and I'm like, give me random words to the
These
internet.
are really good words, though.
They are. This one I would hope that you can spell as it appears in your book, and it is chthonic.
CTHONIC. I spell it wrong all the time, which is
It is CHTHONIC.
that's right. It's the H. I always forget the H.
It's one of those words where you just have it on auto replace, so that way it just recognizes every variation.
My biggest auto replace is the, because I write te all the time. All the time.
The.
Yeah, the.
All the time.
Double E's, that's another one. And then sometimes I mean to write the, and I have to go out of my way to make sure that it stays there. It's fun. And the final word is nebulous.
NEBULOUS.
Yes!
Yay! Yes!
Yay.
Yay! So you missed 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got 6 out of 10. That's not bad.
That's pretty good. Better than I expected to do,
60%.
honestly.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. That brings us to the silly and unhinged section of our question. Firstly, if Lark had to fight a pigeon, who would win and why?
I think the pigeon would win because Lark is too sweet to do any damage to anything. I think she would try to make friends with the pigeon, and it probably would not go well for her if the pigeon had terrible intentions.
I now have headcanon scene of Lark running away on the coast being chased by a herd of pigeons. Just
Like, just wanted to be your friends. I'm sorry.
somebody who's better at fan art than I am, please draw Lark on the cliffside running away from pigeons.
Pigeons.
If you could, would you want to live in verse? And would you worship any of the chthonic gods?
I think I would like to live in verse. It feels very fun, like oceany, kind of, as maybe aside from the cult parts, but you know, it's oceany. You can go to university to learn to be an art curator. And I probably would worship Therion because I think he's a very fun and cool god, and I probably would like to live in the area that Lark lives because I spent so much time there writing it. So yeah, go light some candles at his altar, and hopefully I don't have to marry him to get anything.
If Therion had to run a business, what would he sell, and would he ever turn to fraud?
That's a good question. You know what? I feel like maybe he could do a really good business selling kind of religious merch. You know how you can get like a hat with like the Pope on it and things like that? So he'd have like a little t-shirt stand selling like Therion figurines and hats and t-shirts and things like that.
I worship Therion and all I got was this lousy t-shirt.
Yeah. Like a little mug, #1 god, and there's like a swan on it or something.
The handle would be the swan neck.
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, I think he would have fun running a little stall like that and meeting people, and he quite possibly could turn to fraud just because he has kind of human morals don't always apply to him. He's a little confused about some of them. So I can see him doing it and then being like, what do you mean that I had to pay my taxes? I didn't know. That's not how we do things right now.
Accidental tax evasion.
Accidental tax fraud.
If Tenderly I Am Devoured were a theme park ride, what could we expect on it?
I think it'd have to be like one of those tunnel of love in a swan boat type things.
Excellent.
You need like a vibey. I mean, there is a vibey swan boat in the book, so it would be, I'm going through, and maybe it would be like a trip through like a salt mine, but with like Disney kind of animatronics or something. Someone needs to make this. This sounds really cool. Like book launch, run out like I can do that.
I'm just imagining like the cave where Therion's shrine is as the tunnel of love.
And it's got like a heart-shaped door.
And like all the dolls from It's a Small World, just like,
God.
Such a shame it's too late to revise. Put that in. Maybe I need to write a bonus.
All right. And could you please describe your writing style using only animals and their behaviors?
I think it would be a cat trying to get comfortable on a pile of clean laundry.
I see myself.
Okay, I could respect that.
Myself as a raccoon because I just like I'm digging through trash and I'm trying to find the good trash to put into my collection of better trash.
I often joke as an author, I'm like, people haven't figured out that I'm 3 owls because I want to feel like everyone's going to know that I'm a fraud. So, but in terms of being a writer, I definitely feel like a cat that, you know, when they're all like, oh, just in a minute, I'm sure it'll all fit together.
Accurate. So finally, and we ask this of every guest to give a special shout out to all of the lovely people who helped them get the book onto the shelf. So is there anyone you would like to thank today? Anybody from writer friends to editors, agents, or publishers?
I would love to thank my agent, Jill, who has been the most wonderful support since the beginning of my career. She's been here with me through it all, and she's absolutely amazing. And also Lane, my publicist, who has also been absolutely amazing. And I think between the two of them, I feel so helped and supported, and it's really, really good having people who are just in your corner, willing to fight for you and to love your story as much as you do. So definitely appreciate
Lovely.
And thank you again for joining us today. And just to check, Tenderly I Am Devoured comes out this July.
Yeah, 1st of July, and I think everywhere in Australia and in the US, it'll be out on the 1st.
Lovely.
So you can have a spooky summer.
Yes, spooky summer campfire reads, and the prose. Seriously, the prose is amazing. Like,
I feel like it would be the perfect. I mean, July is middle of winter here, which is also kind of the perfect time to read it. But I feel like it's perfect, like summer vacation, beachside, poolside, wherever kind of read. I'm hoping that everyone enjoys having a sort of spooky sad girl summer with Lark.
lovely. On that note, that is all that we have today, all these lovely questions. And just a reminder to everybody at home that you can always join our Discord server and get your questions in for our next guest, who will be Henry Corrigan, which is next weekend. And I forget the book that Henry wrote, but that's okay because it's all over our socials and I will remember to fix that. I meant to make a note. Guess what I didn't do today?
That's right. I forgot the name of the book in my own book. So watch me remember it at like 2:00 in the morning. So it's fine.
Somewhere Quiet Full of Light. There we go. Somewhere Quiet Full of Light by Henry Corrigan. We will be interviewing him next weekend. So lovely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Yes. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for being here.
We do.
Yes, it's been
We
lovely.
do love interviewing authors. I do kind of miss some of the other games we used to play. I miss playing Burn, Rewrite, Reread, but nobody's using Goodreads as much anymore, and it's hard to steal the books that people like.
I have to hide from Goodreads. I go on occasionally to check how many ads are on my shelf, and even then it's like that kind of, don't look at anything quick. And then occasionally you'll catch like a really bad review where it's like, I think my favorite was the person who said, I think this book is too arty to be good. And I'm just like, it wasn't meant as a compliment, but I love that.
They put way too much work into it.
That feels a little bit like that one book review where it was like, oh, there were too many words on the page.
Like, this book is too long.
Okay.
What was one of my favorites, because I love the one line like hideous book reviews. One of my favorites was like the only redeeming quality was that the print was legible.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely try to avoid going on my Goodreads page, but I sort of peek on there every now and then just to see how many ads my book has because I like looking at that.
So we used to do Burn, Rewrite, Reread, in which I would find all of your 5-star reviews on Goodreads and then present them to you in rounds of 3 books and ask you to burn one out of existence, one to rewrite, and one to reread. And most people were like, but these are my friends' books, right? Because they're authors. They all like blurb their friends' books and stuff. And I'm like, well, you got to choose one. They're like,
I think the only 5-star review I have on Goodreads is the book that my brother and his friend published of like their really weird short stories that they wrote together. So I feel like it would be really mean to burn that. So make a choice.
That's ultimately what it came to. So now when we do play that game, it's reread, rewrite, and repurpose is the last one where you choose to remake it into something else because there's so many book crafts now. Like there's ones where people like they make like little slits in the edge and then they fold over the pages, and then once it's all folded, there's like a new art amongst the sides of the page. It's
really cool.
It's
I have a couple of friends who do rebinding, and one of them rebound Lake's Edge as a gift for me, and it's so cool. I think that would be a really fun hobby.
I've seen TikTok's got a lot of like rebinding accounts on them, and some people put together some truly just beautiful looking rebound copies of these books. And some people are like, I found cupcake cloth and I will put this on my arc and it's my own special one now. But like, some people, I'm like, why are you not working at a publishing company doing cover art? Because like what you're putting together is amazing.
I know.
That's a wrap on this episode of Booked All Night. We'd love for you to be a part of the conversation, so don't forget to rate the show, drop a comment, and share your thoughts in the episode poll. And remember, subscribing means you'll never miss an episode or interview as we launch into more amazing stories together. Booked All Night is produced by Rob Cook and his cats. So when you share your favorite episode, be sure to tag us at Booked All Night Pod on Threads, Instagram, and Facebook, and say hi to our guy in the sound booth. For more information, like reading schedules and dates on our upcoming interviews, check out the link in the show notes. That's link.bio/bookedallnight. lnk.bio/bookedallnight for those of you who don't check the show notes. Until next time, my little Libernauts, this is Jessica Mary, Kay Lee, Magdalyn Ann, and producer Rob signing off and reminding you to stay booked all night.